My name is Elizabeth Creamer. I want to share one of my most awful experiences with you. It's back when I was 9 years old and I lived with my parents. One morning in the summer, I got up and I felt ready to exercise. I let my mom know that I was ready to go to the park. The park was like across the street from my parents' home. I looked both ways and crossed the street. After I crossed the street, I went to the park and started working out. There's a field at the park, so I just ran around and around. It felt good to exercise. Once I was done, I planned to go back home. There was a little hill I had to walk up first. I walked up the hill, looked both ways, crossed the street. I saw a man sitting in his house across the street. This man asked me if I minded moving his car. So I said, no problem. Moving my dad's car. So I got behind the wheel of my dad's car and started driving. I could have done it short. I could have done a short drive, but I really like driving, so I decided to make a whole circle before reparking it. I got to the light and saw that it was red, so I waited. Once it was green, I drove forward. Came to another red light. Once it turned green, I turned left. I went in a circle, and once I got back to my house, I had actually bumped into the car in front of me. I freaked out. So I backed up, and then I backed up into the car behind me. The person behind me was super angry. The person behind me just backed up and drove away. I parked the car, got out to see the damages, and saw that there wasn't much damage, and I was very relieved. And then the police came. There were sirens and lights. I really didn't know what to do. So I pulled over. The cop got out of the car, came up to my window and started talking, but I couldn't hear him, and I gestured to him that I couldn't hear him. The cop gestured for a square, like as in a piece of paper. I tried to communicate that my house was not too far away. It was like right around the corner. So the cop said that he'd follow me. He turned the sirens off, which I was glad he did because that would be embarrassing. Our house was about 2 miles from there. Once we got there, he turned the sirens back on. My dad saw and was wondering what's going on. I was incredibly nervous. Luckily, my father and the cop were actually friends. So I was hoping that I'd kind of just be excused for this. I didn't have a license or a registration, and the cop wanted to know what was up with that. My dad told him about the fact that it was his car, and it's really his fault that I was driving it. The cop said, okay, well, make sure next time that you're bringing a license registration with you. Make sure you need to have it at all times. And my dad agreed. I was wondering what's going to happen with the car that has a bump. But the cop actually didn't see it happen because he left. I told my dad that or my dad said, my dad apologized to me saying there should have been a registration and license and it's my fault. I was very nervous that whole time, but I'll never forget that because, yeah, that was a very anxious, anxiety inducing experience.